Something last year that nobody had accomplished here in a long, long time.
To the 25, to the 20, to the...
We did it when nobody expected us to do it.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay!
We go out and play our game, we'll get the W's in.
Young under pressure, he'll be sacked back at the 32 by Warren Sapp.
We'll deep into the playoffs, and that's what we're expecting. We want a championship, and we know we got to put in the work to get there.
Bucs win! Bucs win! We're going to Lambeau.
It's an unfinished business from last year.
You know, those two words says it all.
Hello everyone, I'm Dick Crippen. And I'm Chris Thomas. For the next half hour, we'll take a look at how the Bucs plan on taking care of last season's unfinished business and what they plan to do to get them a berth in this year's Super Bowl. And Chris, we're also going to look at the excitement that's happening over Raymond James Stadium and talk about some of the fun happenings that'll be available to fans when they go there for the first time. Then our colleague, John McQuiston, is going to be joining us also to talk about a real key on that road to the Super Bowl for the Bucs, and that's the defense. And I know you've been here since 1976, and not since the early 80s have you seen, or any of us, I guess, this sort of enthusiasm about the Bucs. Oh, you are so right. All throughout the entire Bay Area and throughout the nation. National publications have picked the Buccaneers anywhere from second to winning the division to moving to the playoffs to the Super Bowl. No question about it. It's going to be an exciting year for the Buccaneers. But you know what? Looking at them on paper is one thing. We've got to go for the proof of the pudding, and that's on the field. Well, Dick, during the preseason, the Bucs were terribly inconsistent on offense, but that's mostly because of injuries. Mike Allstott's return injected a spark to the offense last week in Oakland, but starting left tackle Paul Gruber and tight end Dave Moore missed the preseason. The good news is they'll be back for Minnesota on Sunday. Well, Chris, certainly injuries play into the season for any NFL team, but I think if you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and if indeed they're on the road to the Super Bowl, then a critical position is certainly quarterback Trent Dilfer. If you were to take their nemesis, the Green Bay Packers, and match them up man for man, the big difference would be a quarterback with Dilfer. Well, Trent didn't throw a touchdown pass in 3 games against Green Bay. Clearly, this is a critical year for Dilfer. He's surrounded by wonderful offensive weapons. He has to step up his game and prove that he belongs in the upper echelon of quarterbacks.
He has heard the criticism and is the first to admit he needs to get better. Trent Dilfer, beginning his 4th year as a starter, believes he is already a pretty good quarterback. In fact, Dilfer says he is already the man when it comes to leading this team, the best man for the job.
The one thing I am absolutely sure of is that if you took all 30 quarterbacks in the NFL and put them on this team had the best one for this team last year. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm not saying I'm one of the best. I'm saying for this football team, I am the best.
The recurrent criticism of Dilfer is that his mechanics are poor. He throws off the wrong foot, and he cannot throw the long ball with accuracy. That is something Trent does not accept.
Well, you have to go back in time, and a lot of people won't realize when I came out of college, I was one of the most mechanically sound quarterbacks that ever played the position in college, and then many pro scouts and coaches said that about me. And then I took giant steps backwards my first few years mechanically. I got in some very sloppy habits, some things that really affected my accuracy, affected my consistency. And last year, if you remember, that was one of the biggest things I worked on, was getting back to the fundamentals, getting back to strong, perfect mechanics.
By almost any yardstick, Dilfer's progression last year was terrific. His interceptions went down, and his touchdown passes went up. He made the Pro Bowl. His team made it 2 games deep into the postseason. That seems like progress. And yet, the criticism continues. The word is, Trent needs to have a breakthrough year. But when you mention that, number 12 gets a little upset.
I think the one thing that bothers me that I've heard this whole offseason is that last year wasn't a breakout year. For me and for this football team, we did something last year that nobody had accomplished here in a long, long time. We did it when nobody expected us to do it. We did it versus a very difficult schedule and with some very adverse conditions. We're not satisfied with that. I think in the big scheme of things, what we accomplished isn't that much, but it was a lot for the city.
Clearly, Trent Dilfer improved from 1996 to 1997. Now the question is, how much more does he need to improve to really move the Buccaneers up? 10, 20%, Dick, might do the job.
Absolutely, and we'll be rooting for him to do that. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk some defense with our colleague, John McQuiston. And we're also going to introduce you to that which will become known as the real distinctive difference between Raymond James Stadium and just another stadium in the NFL. Then I'll sit down with head coach Tony Dungy, and we'll talk about how he balances life as a head coach in the NFL with life with the family.
Bucs 98.